welcome to the Great Water. Today I'm going to talk about work as it relates to the van life and give you some tips and tricks and some perspective on how I run going to work and things like that. So I'll give you some perspective here and catch you up as to how I got into this life and how I managed my own work real quick. So I got a sudden windfall of money. It wasn't a whole lot, but it was enough for me to invest into this life. So I did. I decided to get into this life full time after I worked a job for a while and saved up some money. Then I got into this life. I basically traveled a lot and had some fun. And then for the winter, I came down to the Southwest and worked in a small town, just doing minimum wage work the whole time, right? Just nothing special, Joe job stuff. And after working down here and living for so cheap, I decided that it was worthwhile to pass this on to people. So I'm making videos that basically let you live off as little as possible. And just for perspective there, I made $11,000 last year doing the van life, and I only worked for about 6 months, and that was mostly part-time. And I didn't even spend all of that 11,000. Like, I still had a few thousand left over. So it came to me when I started taking checks. I'd get 2 a month. The first one I would spend most of it, not even all of it, on my monthly expenses. I would have that budgeted out and just save that back. And the other check, I couldn't find anything to do with it, right? So I just saved it. And that's an incredible experience for me. I've worked basically minimum wage jobs for 20 plus years and was never able to squirrel away very much money, like ever. So freeing this up and not paying rent was a huge money saver, like eye opener. So that's where I'm at. So this is how I approach getting a job while I'm living in a mobile shelter, living on public lands. Mostly I'm looking for seasonal work. That is easy to find in places that are tourist heavy. Like, if you have a place that has a tourist season, you can go there and find seasonal work and just work for a few months or whatever, and then hop out and go do something else. The way to approach this and how I've found my jobs in the last several years has been to go online and find places that are hiring, right? You can do Craigslist or any of the Indeed.com or whatever places that you find postings for. Find jobs that you think you would want to do on those websites, and then physically go in, or at least call them and see if they're actually hiring and what they want you to do from there. That is so much better than putting in an online application, in my opinion. You can spam online applications and never get a call back. If you find people that are looking for someone and you physically go in and say, I'm ready to work right now, you have a way better chance of getting hired. So that's my advice there. The amount of honesty you want to put in at a job interview is dependent on a few things, I think. If it is a really tourist-heavy, seasonal place that you're working, the odds are that they've seen people come in and lie their pants off to get a job, all right? And I'm speaking from personal experience here. If you are desperate for a job enough to lie to them and say that I'm going to be here forever and I live in a house here and I just moved here or whatever, you want to make it appealing to them, just know that they've seen all that before and they don't believe you, really. So don't even bother. If it's a really seasonal job and it's a really touristy place, just be honest with them. They have seen it all before. Be honest with them and wait for that person that believes you to give you a job. So that's my advice there. If it's a small town or a city or something not affiliated with seasonal work or tourism, you can just let them assume whatever they want. They will go ahead and probably just assume that you live in that city or town and that you're going to be there forever, right? So don't be too forthcoming with people that don't need that information. I've been there too, where I've told them that I, didn't need the money and I didn't, want to work for all that long, and I was just doing the van life and trying to be free. They're not interested in that. That's not a win-win for them. So you have to find that point of honesty that you want to ride. And I think it's better to err on the side of honesty, but don't spill your guts. Okay? All right. Once you get that job, I think you need to realize that you're only going to be there for a few months, right? 7 months tops, the most you could possibly work before you want to move somewhere because the weather changed. Once you get that job, you want to put in about a month of really good work, several weeks of really good work. Knowing that you're going to be leaving in a few months helps with that a lot. So working really hard for someone is not something that I normally did. I would go in and work, just my normal amount of work. Minimum work for minimum wage was kind of my saying. So I don't do that. I go in and I build a really good foundation with my employer and let them know that I'm going to work really hard for the time I'm there. Once they see that, then you start having, a good foundation, a good relationship with them. So that's important, because in the end, you're looking to get out of there at a certain time. I do that by budgeting it out and saying, I need this much money to make it to my next job, with savings, right? So that number is going to change person to person a lot. But for me, I found that I got to that point after about 3 months of working, and I was able to be like, okay, I'm free. I have enough money. You can fire me right now and I'll still be okay. So that's an interesting feeling right there. I've never had that before, where I got to a certain point in a job where I'm like, oh, I don't need to work this job anymore. That's not something that I'm comfortable with or familiar with prior to this job, or prior to this experience I've had in the van life. So when I realized that, it came down to what about this job is making me want to leave, and can I bring that up with my employer, and how honest can I be about that? I didn't need to leverage the fact that I could just leave against anyone so far, but I think that it gave me the confidence to be like, I don't want to do that kind of work anymore. I don't want to work those hours anymore. I don't want to work those days anymore. And I think that I was able to bring that to an employer with enough confidence and with a foundation of good work so far, enough so for them to let me, have those changes. And if they would have said no to them, it brings me to the next kind of set of options you have. You can leverage that position then. You can say, okay, well, I don't really want to do that work. I'd rather go home. I'd rather not work these days or these hours. I'd rather just not have a job. And they might look at you funny, right? But you could explain to them that, no, I live a free life doing the van life. I don't need much money, and I've already earned enough to get by until my next job, or the next time I'm traveling to someplace where I can work. And I think that that would basically give you leverage like you've never had before to get the job that you want while you're working it. So yeah, once you get to that goal, that monetary goal where you don't have to work, you go into two options. You stay there until it's time to go. You either hate it, or the seasonal job is over, or whatever. And then you can quit. You can just burn that bridge, or whatever. In this day and age in America, employers are looking for people. Okay, now not high level jobs. This is all like minimum wage, a little better Joe job stuff. But they are looking for people, and they want them to stick around for a while. So just burning a bridge is not that big of a deal, in my opinion. I think that you can always find another Joe job if you're flexible and able to work these jobs. The other option is keeping your job. Now, I suggest that you, if you weren't already open and honest about living in a van and wanting to move on after a few months with your job, you need to go ahead and do that once you hit that goal. And just tell them that you plan on leaving at some point in the future, and that and let them give you feedback. I told a boss that I wanted to leave in 2 weeks. He was like, I want a month. And I got to decide if I could do that job for another month or not. I decided not to. I decided to just put in my 2 weeks and leave. And that was fine. We had that conversation, and it was okay. I think that's basically how it would be for most people. Yeah, so that's the basic gist of it. Another interesting way of working in this environment, in this van life, is to use corporations, like large national corporations like McDonald's or box hardware stores, or almost any fast food job. If you work for them, they have you on a national corporate level, right, that they're hiring you from. So once you get onto one store of that franchise, you can move to another location and work the same job at the same store. So I know people that are doing McDonald's right now. I think that they could go anywhere in America that they want to go and work at another McDonald's for 3 months or whatever, as long as they leave on good terms and go that way. So I'm just bringing that out there as a interesting way to have reliable, consistent work while you're doing the van life. Then you get into like digital nomad stuff, which is basically remote work on a mobile internet. Not super easy to get good jobs that fit that bill, but there's lots of little gig economy stuff that's $50 a day for a little project or whatever, and that's more than enough to do this life. So simple digital nomad stuff, you can look into remote work that you can do from mobile data on your cell phone or whatever, and I'm sure you'd be surprised to find a few jobs like that. I'm a little old school, and I don't really want to go that way, though I've done a lot of gig economy stuff. I'm not really hard up to find work or anything, but I might get into that if I need more freedom for some reason. So yeah, that basically wraps up this video. Thank you for tuning in. If that was helpful, give me a like. If you think this channel is useful to you, give me a subscribe. But otherwise, just thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time. So thanks again, and we'll see you.